Since the dawn of human spaceflight, women have played a critical role in exploring our universe. The female perspective has allowed women to look at problems differently, to come up with unique solutions, and to work side by side with their male co-workers to build a better future for all. In 1922, Pearl Young was the first woman to be hired in a technical position by the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, or the NACA, NASA's predecessor. As the decades marched on, more women would come to the aerospace industry, but mostly in support positions, often working as secretaries, doctors, or computeresses, women who performed mathematical calculations by hand. Computeresses became prominent in World War II as men went off to fight. After the war, many women continued to find work as computeresses with agencies like the U.S. Army and the NACA. As the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union gave way to a space race, many computeresses found themselves instrumental in calculating the flight trajectories for rockets. Dr. Joyce Neighbors led a team in Huntsville, Alabama to calculate the trajectory for the Jupiter-C rocket that launched America's first satellite, Explorer-1, in January of 1958. And Katherine Johnson calculated the trajectory for Alan Shepard's spaceflight in May of 1961, making him the first American in space. As men began routinely journeying to space in the early 1960s, some began to wonder when women would be next. One such person was Dr. William Randolph Lovelace II. After helping develop the test used to select NASA's first group of astronauts, the Mercury 7, Dr. Lovelace was curious to see how women would respond to the same tests. Dr. Lovelace proceeded to invite women to take part in the same 3 phases of testing that the men went through. The Women in Space program was privately funded and unconnected from NASA because women were not eligible to apply to be actual astronauts. At the time, NASA required all potential astronauts to be military jet test pilots, and since women were not allowed to fly in the military, that barred them from competing. In total, 13 women successfully completed Phase 1 testing, surpassing the performance of many of the men. These women came to be known as the Mercury 13. The final phase of testing was to take place at the Naval School of Aviation and Medicine in Pensacola, Florida. But since the tests were not being ordered by NASA, the Navy would not allow the use of their facilities for an unofficial program. Around that time, President John F. Kennedy established the President's Commission on the Status of Women in December 1961 to promote gender equality in the workforce. This prompted then NASA Administrator James Webb to create an agency-wide policy directive to provide equal opportunities for women.
This executive order set a new tone to the government's policy of non-discrimination by calling for affirmative action to be taken by all federal agencies and departments to ensure equal opportunities for all qualified persons seeking employment with the federal government.
Many women were promoted to new positions within the agency, and numerous others were hired. Even as the number of female engineers and scientists increased, most leadership positions were still held by men, and the idea of a woman being an astronaut seemed as distant as the stars themselves. In July of 1962, members of the Women in Space program went to Washington, D.C. to try and have the testing program resumed, but they were unable to persuade a special subcommittee of the House Committee on Science and Astronautics, and the program was officially over. Even so, word of the Women in Space program had reached the Soviet Union. Not wanting to cede any potential victory to the United States, the Soviet Union began training 5 female cosmonauts, and on June 16, 1963, Valentina Tereshkova became the first woman in space. While Russia would not send another woman into space for nearly 2 more decades, they had beaten the United States once more to another milestone in the space race. Meanwhile, back in the United States, the focus was entirely on getting America to the moon before the Russians. As the Apollo program wrapped up, women played critical roles in the program. Women such as Margaret Hamilton, the lead programmer for the guidance computer used in the Apollo program, and Judy Sullivan, the lead biomedical engineer for the Apollo 11 mission. The only area where women were still not represented was in the Astronaut Core itself. While NASA had, by the mid-1960s, started to waive the jet pilot requirement, opting to select individuals with a background in science, women were still not considered. It was not until almost 10 years later when things changed in a significant way. In 1974, the Navy and Army both started to allow female pilots, followed by the Air Force in 1976. This gave many women jet pilot experience that did not previously have it. This, coupled with the passage of the Equal Employment Opportunity Act of 1972, led NASA to seek out a diverse roster of candidates for the first astronaut group that would fly on the in-development Space Shuttle.
You're a little girl and you want to be an astronaut when you grow up. You're told that's not an appropriate goal for a little girl. Why don't you want to be something else? You have to decide for yourself what it is that you want. And if you want it, really want it badly enough, then you have to make it happen for yourself.
Now the shuttle will be taking scientists and engineers, men and women of all races, into space just like the astronaut crew on the Starship Enterprise. This is your NASA, a space agency embarked on a mission to improve the quality of life on planet Earth right now.
In 1978, NASA selected 35 astronauts. Among those 35 were 6 women, 3 African Americans and an Asian American. One of those 6 women was astronaut Sally Ride, who on June 18, 1983, became the first American woman in space on the STS-7 mission almost 20 years to the day after Valentina Tereshkova's flight. After Sally Ride's first flight into space, women began to fly to space on a regular basis, with many more firsts occurring over the next 2 decades. In 1992, Mae Jemison became the first African American woman to go to space. A year later, Ellen Ochoa became the first Hispanic woman, and a year after that, Japanese astronaut Chiaki Makai became the first Asian woman. Then in 1995, Eileen Collins became the first woman to pilot a space shuttle. To watch this momentous moment, Collins invited 7 of the surviving members of the Women in Space program to the launch. Collins achieved another milestone in 1999 when she became the first female commander of a shuttle mission. On the ground and in space, women have since maintained a continued presence and have even found themselves in positions of leadership at NASA and commercial space companies. Female astronauts are no longer just a dream, but a reality, and women making significant contributions in the engineering of spaceflight and studying the universe is now commonplace. The contributions of women in space are not done either, with the Artemis program just beginning. Artemis was the twin sister of Apollo in Greek mythology, and Artemis is the chosen name for NASA's program to return humanity to the moon and lead us on to Mars. Out of the first 18 Artemis astronauts, 9 of them are women, proving that if humankind is to further our reach into the stars, we must do it together and for all of humanity.